South Vietnam's Air Force panicked. Their pilots fled, littering the runway with discarded bombs. With the runway unusable, the fixed-wing airlift had to stop. The only way out was now by helicopter. A secret code was played over the airwaves to signal the beginning of the final evacuation.
Of a white Christmas.
White Christmas, that was the signal for people to assemble, to go to their evacuation assembly points. And so we turned on the radio on that. That was our radio. We turned that on, and it kept playing all day long and all night long, and it was still playing when we were leaving. It kept going. It kept going. Until somebody turned it off. That was after we left.
Key American personnel was summoned to the embassy.
And when I got to the embassy, I recognized the signs of what must have been evacuation planning. Safes were being blown, papers were being burned. So I walked in, I think it was to Wolf's office, and asked what was going on, and I was told we were evacuating. It was a pretty rapidly unfolding scene. I mean, you know, in some ways it's like watching television. You're sitting at an embassy window watching Augmented Marine Squad coming in on a helicopter. You're nothing but an observer at that time. All the forces at work were, if you will, external forces over which you had no control, authority, responsibility.
As word spread that the Americans were leaving, desperate Vietnamese started to gather outside the gates of the embassy.
At first it was open, the gates were open. Like I said, it was business as usual. Then by about 10 or 11 o'clock, after the Americans started showing up for the evacuation, a lot of the Vietnamese showed up. And we asked our commanders, well, what is the policy here? And they said basically anybody that had an American-issued identification card showing that that person at one time had been an employee, a Vietnamese employee, they would be allowed in with however many people they had. So we started doing that. And then the crowd started getting bigger and bigger, and we couldn't accommodate them that easily. The Vietnamese were so panicky, they were pushing and shoving, and the people in the back were squishing the people up to the front of the gates. It was just impossible to let anybody through at the time. They weren't being organized, they weren't staying in line, they weren't waiting their turn, they were taking cuts and everything. So we just eventually had to close that whole gate.